A is to listen to the monkeys. Don't ignore them and see what they say. So you don't want to use any tricks and you don't want to try and fool them either. So when you listen to the monkeys, that's all about listening to the voices in your head. And you've already done that because you've shared with me on the question session what your monkeys are. Now, most people say to ignore your monkeys. So if you go to the average person and say, I'm worried about presenting, it makes me nervous, then the average person will say, well, don't worry about it. Why don't you picture the audience naked? Well, as far as I'm concerned, that would make it worse. So I don't know, maybe for some of you it's good. But generally, I wouldn't suggest that that's a good way to be dealing with your fears. So you really need to make sure that you listen to your monkeys, and not forever, because you're going to tame them. But the first step of taming them is, first of all, to listen to them. Now, for some of you, you might never have listened to your monkeys before. You might only have ignored them, pushed them under the carpet, put them to one side, whatever your version of ignoring them is. And typically, the British people are very good at this, stiff upper lip and all that. And it's very helpful while you're managing the monkeys, but it's not helpful as a long-term strategy. So if you're one of those people who has managed to bury their monkeys for years and years, good on you for being so strong, but really it's quite tricky and tiring to do that. So the better thing is to tame your monkeys, and so that you can be yourself and be much freer and able to be yourself when you're speaking, really. Don't use tricks and try and fool them. The monkeys, I know I talk about them as if they're separate, but here's the secret. They're part of you. So don't fool them because they're part of you. They know exactly what you're doing. So don't fool them and try and pretend it's gone if it's not, or whatever. So does that make sense so far, the listen to the monkeys? If you could just type in your question box if you're with me. Yes, that makes sense. I want to just check that I've explained that clearly for you. So just in your question box. Yeah, yes, thanks. Yeah, this makes sense. Good, fantastic. You know, the thing is about a webinar is it is very weird, because normally I'd be looking at you, getting you to nod and say, yes, that makes sense. So I need to ask you to answer in the questions box for me. That's fantastic, just so that I know that you're with me. But it's definitely a different thing from delivering live, so bear with me here. So the next part of catching your monkeys is all about separating the monkeys. So instead of, what we tend to do is say, I've got a fear of public speaking. Wow, that's huge. It's too big to be a monkey. It's too ginormous. It needs to be broken down into, actually, I'm scared when I speak to more than 100 people, or my knees shake, or my whatever happens. So you need to separate them, and actually just the process of separating it down into different elements actually makes the monkeys less scary, because instead of being scared by this whole thing, you actually go, well, actually, I'm not scared when it's just 5 people in the room. It's only when I'm standing up. Many people have a monkey which is when I stand up, as if the knees are somehow connected to the voice box, which clearly they're not. Well, I guess they are. It depends how easily they're connected. But some people think as soon as they engage their knees and they stand up, that now's the time to have the monkeys, which clearly isn't logical, but it definitely happens. So the first thing to do is to separate the monkeys and make sure that they've been separated. Good. And we're going to go through an example of this, a case study of this, which when you download chapter 4, you'll be able to follow in your own way as well. But I want to talk you through it today. The third section then is to drill down to the underneath monkeys, and that's using a 4S checklist. And so what you want to do is make sure that your monkeys are specific, separate, small, and simple. So we've talked about separate. They need to be specific, small, and simple. So I'm going to go through that with you now. So let's take an example. I've got an example in the book of Georgie, and she's a case study. She's kind of a mix of many different clients I've put into one case study. And she, let's say her monkey is, you know, when I asked her, listen to your monkeys, what are they saying? She says, what if you mess it up? So you can see that at the top of that chart. Now, obviously, that's quite a large monkey, and it's a bit too generic. It's not very specific. So to ask what's underneath that, to separate it out, I'd ask, what's underneath the what if you mess it up monkey? So then Georgie would go inside her head and go, I don't know, what's underneath that? And she'd write down or say that actually what's underneath that is, well, what if you get your numbers wrong? What if you get negative feedback? What if you forget what to say? Good. So you can see how those are much more specific monkeys, and they're probably separate issues. And then the real secret is to go underneath that one more level and say, great, so what's underneath the what if you get your numbers wrong monkey? And then you get to the simple monkeys, which are literally 1 or 2 words. They're so simple, but actually they're quite insightful, because actually here, Georgie realises that monkeys actually about you're wrong. And when you say, why are you worried about what if you get negative feedback? She goes, that's the you're wrong monkey as well. Can you see how the you're wrong monkey is a very simple monkey to have? Very basic. And then the third one she's got here, what if you forget what to say? You ask, what's underneath that monkey? And Georgie says, you'll look stupid. Okay, so what's underneath that monkey is you're stupid. So it's interesting here what Georgie's done with this is because she said, well, if I forget what to say, I'll look stupid. But what she's then done is taken that as an identity, a belief about herself. So she now believes she is stupid just because, for example, she's forgotten what to say. And this is why monkeys can impact us so greatly, because basically, you know, we take these thoughts and beliefs and actually think it's part of our identity. So please let me know in the questions box that what I've just explained makes sense to you. That would be really helpful. So if you could just let me know, say, yeah, that makes sense. Yes, good. Yes, this makes sense. Yes, good. Okay, we're getting there. That's fantastic. Good. That's basically my monkey, says someone. Thank you very much for sharing that. Good. Well, we've done, you don't have to do your monkey homework then, do you? Because we've done your monkey. That's fantastic. Good. So this is really serious stuff because, you know, you do one silly mistake and suddenly you think you're stupid. That's not okay. That's not a good way to live your life. So although we're talking about these things being quite fun, you know, it's fairly deep, but the good thing is that it doesn't have to be this way, because you can see we've clearly made some errors in judgment, our monkeys have anyway, so we can correct them back to what we were before, which was totally lovely and perfect anyway, before we messed it up. So what if you do mess it up, monkey? Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for letting me know that this one makes sense. Let's talk about who has monkeys. I told you earlier, anyone can have monkeys. This lady worked with me, Yeshim, and she's wonderful. What I want to show you about this testimonial, I guess, is that even somebody who, what she does for a living is she helps countries to keep the peace. I mean, I couldn't think of a more worthy job. So she helps countries to talk to, in conflict, to talk to one another, which, I mean, I'd have loads of monkeys about that. So she's fantastic at what she does. And in small meetings, she felt really comfortable, and she's talking to politicians, she's talking to prime ministers, you know, all the kind of people that perhaps would give the average folks some monkeys. And she's totally cool with that. But what she came to me for was to talk about speaking in front of large groups of people. And in fact, she had a meeting in Parliament that she needed to speak in front of. Now, what I want you to see here is the difference in body language between these two pictures. This isn't a coincidence. The first screen is when she's telling me about her problem. I've asked her, why are you here? And she's telling me about the problem. You can see her shoulders are slumped. You can see that worried look in her brow. But when you look at the second picture, which is after a couple of sessions with me, you can actually see that she's sitting up. She's sitting up straight. She's got lovely body language. She's looking bright. She's smiling. Is it just me that can see that, or can you all see that? So just pop your hands up to let me know that you can see that dramatic difference. Because she's got rid of her monkeys, you can all see that she looks different. Great, you can. Okay, that's super. Because that's kind of what you're doing now. If you've got monkeys, you're doing this body language unintentionally to your audience. So you're unintentionally being the slopey shoulders, the worried look on your brow, which again doesn't help with the downward spiral because you're making your audience a little bit more worried than if you had the confidence look on the right before you even started. That would be a great place to start your presentation. Super. So let's take a look at the second monkey rule,